Hey, it's Mopar Keith here from Knoll Automotive, and I'd like to welcome you back to my channel to check out another part of the series on this brown 1970 Dodge Challenger. Today we're going to be taking a more in-depth look at the trunk and the spare tire, the jack, the taillights, and so on and so forth. So follow along. Now you can see on this trunk lid, it is not a TA trunk lid because it doesn't have the holes here for the rear spoiler, but it was designed to have a go wing or gull wing. So these bracket holes right here, and then also it could have had a luggage rack. So these holes right here were designed for the luggage rack. And then for the gull wings, you would have this giant corner bracket that would fit in here with spring nuts. Your die-lot stamps. And the trunk jack instructions. And the light. And you can see where the wire comes out. It's a special clip right there. Alright, we're going to pull this spare tire out of here and take a really close look at everything that's involved with that. Alright, we're going to kind of break this down into a few different pieces here. We're going to look at the valve stem cap, the wheel numbers, the tire numbers, and the jack hook and the inflator. So let's take a look at some stuff close up here. Alright, so here's the valve stem cap off of that. Got the little cord removal tool on the end of it. Then we've got the hook. Get the part number here. Oops. And there's the Pentastar, and on the other side is an A. Alright, then we'll look at the inflator canister here a little bit. Now it's actually got some good weight. You can definitely tell that there's some fluid in there. Under pressure. Let's take a look at this cap real quick. Now there's two styles I've seen of those, a yellow one and a green one. And obviously this is yellow, and it will say Clover on the top here. Let's see. Oh, there it is. Okay, so there's the inflator cap. Okay, let's take a close look at the wheel and the tire. So we've got some numbers. Let's get a close up here. Stamping on the inside, an inspection mark, one locator hole, and down by the valve stem there's always some more important documentation here. Now I won't go into this completely, but we've got a 5.5-inch rim. There's going to be a date code and where the wheel was made, whether it's a Kelsey Hayes or a motor wheel. There's the valve stem, label. Alright, so anyone in the comments, please help me understand or explain, did a 14-inch wheel car get a space saver, or is it just cars that came with 15-inch wheels? Now, I know like Trans Ams and AARs came with space savers, and this is a 1970 RT with 15-inch rallies. So which cars got the space savers and which did not? Get a close-up of the size there. Alright, then we'll look on the side, or on the tread area for the wheel stamping, or the tire stamping. It's K10 something. If anyone has some information on what exactly that means, please comment. Alright, so that about does it. We've got the hook, the valve stem, the inflator cap. This is pretty standard on most any spare tire Mopar related. You've got the inflator clamp. You've got your basic T-shape. Now I call this like a T-shape. And the later ones are more of a triangle shape. So that's the T-shape, and there's the jack mast right there. But pretty basic base right there, basic base. This is what you see on most Mopars of the 70 and older. So that's about it for the trunk and the spare tire. Alright, so according to the instructions here, the hook is going to go on that spare tire stud first, and then everything's going to go back on top of it. So it's a good thing we got a good look at the hook, because otherwise you can't see it. Alright, well that's all put back together. You can see that's really faint. On some restored cars that's maybe over restored, but it's hard to say how much is worn off over the years. All back together according to the jacking instructions for a hardtop. Kind of a white zinc here. Let's talk about this undercoating here a little bit. Now, after years and years of trying to figure out how they did it, I figured out, I always wondered how they got the undercoating on the quarter panels clear up in there. And I figured out after taking a few cars apart that the undercoating was applied to this quarter panel before it even went on the car. So the technician would spray close, but not all the way, to the weld areas and the areas that needed to be sealed off, like the fill neck and the turn signal, or the side marker light. So they actually either sprayed really careful, or they had some kind of template to block that off. And this undercoating is, every restoration guy tries to replicate this, but they don't always get it. And there's always different versions of it. Sometimes it's applied super clean, super thick, thin, but it's, keep in mind, it's just a human working on a line, just spraying it as he goes. This trunk floor is super sanitary. You can see the original style seam sealer applied with a air gun, like a caulking gun, and then smeared out with either their hand or they had a big brush or something. There's some seam sealer there. Quarter panel trim, speed nuts or pal nuts. Now in 1970 Plymouth, they painted the side marker light with the car, and so sometimes this bezel or this bracketry on the back got some overspray on it. But on the Dodge, they had chrome side marker lights, so these weren't even close to the car when it was being painted. It's the original spot welds. Now here's something. Every car is programmed with the right side tailpipe hanger, and dual exhaust cars got the left side hanger. Now Trans Am cars, meaning Challenger TA and CUDA AARs, this was eliminated due to the side exhaust. So they just put some strip caulking on top of those holes there. And let's go over here, and we do have a little bit of rust. I think we're gonna put some kind of metal treatment on that to stop that from getting worse. But this is why these trunk floors always rusted, is they would get a little bit of moisture stuck in there and it would just fester. All right, here's your trunk latch. Now this is kind of different from what I'm used to seeing. A lot of times these bolts right here are painted because when they painted the trunks on these cars, they had a fixture that was attached to the striker. And this looks like it's probably been monkeyed with. It's hard to say, maybe this is an NOS piece, but this would always be painted, the bolts would be painted, and then they would reuse these bolts here and they would be painted. Now the white zinc on this is correct, but I think someone's had that apart before because that's not typical of what you see on an e-body. There's that original trunk mat with the part number. Screws holding that down. And let's go over and check out the other quarter panel. Now the owner did add these rags right here to kind of protect everything, keep it from rattling. There's that undercoating. So obviously they had like a piece of cardboard or something that they would put over that area because you can see how that's squared off. But then it looks like the spray gun just ended right there. Clamps. One thing that's missed sometimes on restorations is these do not come on the restoration pieces, so you have to re-weld these hooks right here on e-bodies. More seam sealer. There's your trunk light wire. Let's look at this trunk seal and see if we can find a part number here. Oh, I'm not seeing a part number. Glue isn't really sloppy either. Sometimes you see yellow glue sprayed all over the place. Alright, so that about does it on this subject. So join me next time at Knoll Automotive. Don't forget to subscribe and comment.